Prince's childhood left him as a functional orphan. Do you think that had an impact on the artist that he eventually became?
I mean, we talked about this a lot, Alan, when we talked about Prince's background in my book. I mean, you know, the guy was given an extraordinary amount of time to shape himself from 13 to 18, which, you know, most of us have parents who are on top of us and saying, here's how you're going to be. And like, we want to be something else, and they're like, no, you're not going to be that, you're going to be my vision. And if you didn't have that, imagine what you would become. Well, Prince was able to move directly toward that vision, and it did not include basic social skills, and it did include knowing everything that would lead you to become a rock star, and that's what he went toward.
Yeah, I think that's true, but when you say basic social skills, he actually was somehow well raised, even though he was orphaned about. Anybody who doesn't know his story, the short version is his parents broke up when he was, I forget what age.
10, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. The mother left, he stayed with the father who struggled to raise him, and eventually he ended up staying with a friend's mother who became like a godmother, so on and so on. But it clearly had a huge impact on just about everything about him, not just his art, but his very being, his whole social. I mean, he had the basic skills. He's a very naturally, very polite, well-spoken guy. And I think that was there since childhood. That may speak more to Minnesota than it does anything else, just because of Minnesota nice, the cliche that we live with. But, so in that sense, he was well-trained. But clearly there was an anger and an uber rebelliousness about everything he did, from the way he dressed to the way he did address people in a comfortable situation, and all of it had to do with, even before he recognized it was marketing, he was self-promoting in marketing, because everything he did was for effect. It really wasn't natural. It was like, I'm gonna do this because of how it's gonna affect the girls at school, or the taller guys who bully me, or the teacher, or the guy who has a band I want to play with. Everything was for an effect. But for that matter, it still is. Look at how he dresses.
But one of the things you pointed out was
and I don't mean that it's a slam, but just describing who he is.
That he felt that his mother abandoned him, and that left him unable to trust anybody. And that's where you get the control freak, the one-man band, the sort of, we feel like we know him, but you can't get all the way into who he is. As confessional as he is, we can't get all the way into his heart. I mean, I don't know.
I'm glad you touched on that when you broke down When Doves Cry, because that's something that not many people have picked on. That the person that left him standing in a world so cold, I always believed that he was talking to his mother.
Well, and Susanna, when I was talking to her, his ex-girlfriend, Wendy and Lisa, Wendy's sister, said yes, he's talking about his mother in When Doves Cry, when he says, how could you leave me standing in a world that's so cold? So if that's how he looks at his mom, I mean, how many of us know people who are like, your father abandons you, that's horrible, it happens. But for your mom to abandon you, and how that, I mean, that instinctual bond between, you know, a person and their mother,